Good day, everyone. Today, I'll be reporting one of the most significant topics affecting our planet, which is environmental issues in Asia. We often hear about pollution, climate change, and deforestation. But what do these really mean for our region? And what our government doing about them? So, let's find out. But before we begin, here are our learning objectives for this lesson. This report aims to identify the major environmental issues prevalent in each Asian subregion, analyze the root causes, resulting effects of potential solutions, and enhance awareness and inform actions among scholars, policymakers, and communities. For clarity and coherence, the subregions considered were in our East Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, Central Asia, and West Asia, or also known as Middle East. Each is treated with a specific country case study to illustrate the broader phenomenon. Asia is home for more than half of the world's population, making it the largest and most populated country in Earth. Because of this, the demand of resources such as food, water, energy, and land continues to grow rapidly. The region's rapid industrialization, agricultural expansion, and urban development have placed immense pressure on the environment. Factories release pollutants into the air and rivers. Farmlands farmlands are overused and cleared for cultivation, and cities expand for fast pace, producing more waste and consuming more energy. These changes have led to serious consequences such as air and water pollution, soil degradation, deforestation, and the worsening effects of climate change. A closer look at each subregion shows that each faces unique environmental challenges that also have global impacts. East Asia struggles with air pollution from industries and vehicles, while South and Southeast Asia deals with deforestation and water contamination. Central Asia experiences desertification, and West Asia suffers from extreme heat, and water scarcity. This issue not only threatens local ecosystems and human health but also affects biodiversity, food security, and climate change stability. Understanding these problems allows us to find sustainable solution and reminds us that protecting Asia's environment is essential for the well-being for the entire planet. So let's begin with East Asia, where air pollution and industrial emissions have been serious environmental problems. So we have East Asia. Main issue is air pollution and industrial emissions. Countries covered China, Japan, South Korea, and Mongolia. East Asia continues to face severe air pollution due to industrial growth, vehicle emissions, and heavy dependence on fossil fuels. A major concern is PM 2.5. It is a fine particular matter smaller than 2.5 micrometers, about 30 times thinner than a strand of human hair. Because it is so small, it can enter deep into our lungs and bloodstreams, leading to serious illnesses such as asthma, lung cancer, and heart diseases. So according to World Health Organization, PM 2.5 levels in several East Asian cities still exceed safe standards, posing a major threat to public health. So let's discuss the main causes of air pollution in East Asia. So first, we have the dependence on coal and fossil fuels for electricity and industrial production. So many factories and power plants in China and Mongolia still burn large amounts of coal. And this releases harmful gases like carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen oxides, which pollute the air and contribute to climate change. So next, we have the high pollution density and traffic congestion in metropolitan areas. So big cities like Beijing, Tokyo, and Seoul have millions of cars and buses running daily. Vehicle emissions release smog, forming pollutants to make the air hazy and dangerous to breathe. So we have the rapid industrialization and expansion without adequate pollution control infrastructure. In some areas, factories operate without modern pollution filters or proper waste management. This causes harmful chemicals and smoke to be released directly into the air. Now that we understand the causes, let's look at the effects that these issues bring to people and the environment. Now that we understand the causes of air pollution in East Asia, let's move on to its effect and impacts. These consequences affect not only the environment but also the health and daily lives of millions of people. So first, we have the increased respiratory illness and premature deaths caused by particulate pollution. Air pollution directly harms human health. Pollutants like PM2.5, a tiny particle that can penetrate deep into the lungs that causes asthma, lung infections, and even premature deaths. So the most of the effective groups are children and elderly who are more sensitive to poor air quality. So this led to an increase in hospital admissions and healthcare costs across the region. Next, we have the acid rain leading to soil degradation and agricultural losses. So when pollutants such as the sulfur dioxide mix with rainwater, they form acid rain. This acidic precipitation damages crops, trees, and soil, making it harder for plants to grow and lowering agricultural productivity. Over time, acid rain also corrodes buildings and monuments, especially in industrial and urban areas. So next is transboundary pollution affecting neighboring countries and regional climate stability. Air pollution doesn't really stay within one country. It travels through the wind. For example, smog in China, it can reach China and Japan, worsening air quality there as well. So this proves that environmental issues in East Asia are interconnected. Solving them requires regional cooperation. So, with these serious and far reaching effects, governments across Asia, East Asia, have recognized the urgency of acting together to control pollution and restore clean air. Let's take a look at what measures have already been implemented and the progress that has been achieved so far. Possible solution and government actions. In local and national. So we have the adoption of clean energy technologies, closure for high emission factories, and stricter emission standards. In regional, we should collaborate among East Asian countries for data sharing and coordinated air quality management. We have global commitment to Paris Agreement and expansion of renewable energy investment. According to the World Bank 2021, the Chinese government have major efforts to reduce air pollution through the national programs such as the Blue Sky Action Plan and the Air Pollution Prevention and Control Action Plan 2013 to 2017. These programs were designed to combat the severe smog and poor air quality that once covered many Chinese cities. Under these plans, the government promoted the use of cleaner fuels, increased investment in renewable energy sources like solar and wind power. China also encouraged the adoption of electric vehicles to replace gasoline powered ones that once produce harmful emissions. In addition, many and old high polluting factories were upgraded into clearer technologies or permanently closed to reduce industrial smoke and chemicals into the air. Because of these distinct policies and strict enforcement, China's average PM 2.5 levels dropped about 35% between 2013 and 2020. So the decrease of these particles means fewer respiratory illness and noticeably clearer skies in major cities like Beijing and Shanghai. Although challenges remain, but especially in rural and industrial regions, China's success shows that strong government action, technology, and public cooperation can lead to real progress toward a clearer and healthier environment. Now that we've seen China's progress, let's take a look at other East Asian countries such as Japan, South Korea, and Mongolia that are also addressing air pollution through their own policies and programs. So we saw China's Blue Action Plan that I presented. Next, we will jump to Japan's Environmental Quality Standard Act, which is it is enforces strict air quality monitoring system across the country and also promotes a high electric and hybrid vehicles powered to replace gas powered cars. Because of these efforts, Tokyo is now one of the most cleanest major cities in the world. Next, we have South Korea, the fine dust reduction policies in 2019. So this implements for seasonal restrictions on factory operations during heavy smog. This introduces electric buses and promote clean public transportation. So this also works with local industries to reduce fine dust emissions and improve air quality. Next we have the Mongolia, the Ulaan Bataan Clean Air Project or ADB supported. So this provided clean heating systems to replace coal-based stoves that are used in household. So this project also helped to reduce smog and dust pollution, especially during the winter season when coal use is high. So as we can see, East Asian are making remarkable progress through combined efforts. However, while East Asia focuses on air pollution, other parts of Asia face differently yet equally urgent challenges. So next, let's move on to explore another sub-region, Southeast Asia, and then the environmental issues affecting it.
So now let's move to the next sub-region. What do you think is the next region? Yes, you're right, Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia, which includes like the countries Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam. So the main issue here is the forest loss due to logging and agricultural expansion. So deforestation has been one of the most serious environmental problems in this region. So the causes behind it are quite complex. There is illegal logging, mining, land conversion for agriculture. So these activities continue to grow because of weak enforcement of environmental laws. On top of that, there's overconsumption of single-use plastics and inadequate waste management systems, which further worsen environmental degradation. So when forests are cleared, it's not just about losing trees, it's about losing life. So these ecosystems are homes to countless plant and animal species, many of which are found only in this region. So the effects and impacts of deforestation are devastating. So there's biodiversity loss and the destruction of critical habitats, meaning species are driven closer to extinction. So extinction means kanang habit na siya mawala. So it also increases flooding, erosion, and landslide. So because trees that normally hold the soil together are gone. So wala na muhawid sa mga yuta kung ang kahoy is kipamputol na tanan. So which leads to kung ma-degrade na siya is mag-lead siya sa contamination sa rivers, oceans, and also which endangers marine life and local fisheries, affecting people's livelihood and food security. So what's being done about it? So let's look at the possible solutions and government actions that are already in place. So we have here the possible solutions and government actions. So the solutions to Southeast Asia's environmental issues operate at three levels, which are the local, national, and global. So locally and nationally, countries are implementing programs like the National Greening Program or the NGP and the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act or the RA 9003. So this promote reforestation and recycling, encouraging citizens and communities to take part in restoration efforts. On the other hand, regionally, there's strong ASEAN cooperation through the Transboundary Haze Agreement and the Haze-Free Roadmap, which aim to reduce haze pollution that crosses borders, like as a common result of forest fires from deforestation. Like bisag anong nga sa example is kana bitang like kanang mahurot na ang mga kahoy is tungo sa kainit magkuan jud kay masunog naman siya kay wala naman siya mo kana bitang like kanang wala na mo shade bitaw din mo direct na ang sunlight sa kahoy which is mag-cause na siya og fire tungod sa kainit. So globally, partnerships with organizations such as the UNEP and the World Bank are helping fund sustainable forest and waste management projects across the region. So these solutions remind us that solving environmental problems requires everyone, like the local communities, regional groups, and even global organizations working together like kanang kanang masolusyonan ni kung mangliyok sa tatanan dili as a community but also in a region in South Asia in the Asia but also in the globally tibuok kalibutan para ma-reduce ang bitaw kanang greenhouse gases or mga greenhouse effect. Then now let's take a closer look at an inspiring example from our own country, which is the Philippines. So there are some studies na according sa Department of Environment and Natural Resources 2022 and Global Forest Watch 2023, the Philippines lost approximately 1.42 million hectares of forest cover from 2001 to 2022. So kaya mo sa cause na which are the deforestation, illegal logging, and such. So but and this is the good part. Aside sa katong bad na good part po, the country has made major efforts to reverse this trend. So sa man nasa na ninyo. Yes, sakto kanang nag-reforestation ang sa Philippines like nagtanom og kanang mga kahoy bitaw like kanang person ng mga kana bitang tree planting, mga mangrove planting. Yan na. So mana hantod nga sige kada year na lang halos is magtanom motto ni daghan ang mga kahoy which is more naka-reduce na pud siya sa mga carbon dioxide sa Philippines then sa mga soil degradation, mga landslide bitaw. Then so the National Greening Program launched in 2011. So aimed to reforest 1.5 million hectares with 1.5 billion trees and dako dyan na siya kayo no kay 1.5 million hectares man. So sa tibuok Philippines, any parts sa Philippines, tree planting. So katong mga gipang illegal logging or gipang deforestation yung mga lugar is kanang gitamnan o balik og kahoy. So recent reports have shown improved watershed health and increased carbon sequestration, meaning our forests are beginning to store more carbon again and helping fight climate change. So according to sa report is katong ni-increase daw ang carbon sequestration like nag-absorb na og carbon dioxide ang mga kahoy kay katong wala pa yung mga kahoy is abundant sa carbon dioxide kay wala na mo absorb sa carbon dioxide kay wala na may mga kahoy. So like kanang wala nimo anang like into may ba kung sa photosynthesis is ma-absorb man jud og carbon dioxide ang isa katano or sa kahoy din i-convert to oxygen. So moto through public participation, government enforcement, and the NGO partnerships, the Philippines has gradually restored degraded landscapes and strengthened environmental awareness nationwide. So this shows that when people, government, and communities unite for the environment, real progress happens. So we as students can also take part by joining tree planting, reducing waste, and spreading awareness. Like dapat mo join jud ta og mga night tree planting no kay kanang like mo volunteer jud ka kay kanang para kalabit ang kanang singan na kanang para makatabang bug nga katalom kag kahoy sa tong environment like dili ra sila dapat kanang kita tanan gud ang mo tabang nga makatanom ta kahoy para mudagan ang mga kahoy sa toang nasod or sa itong mga palibot nga wala na yung mga kahoy like kadang sa ubang lugar sa Bohol nga ihimo ng mga mining or di ba gipang paano mga kahoy kay tukuran og mga building. So that's why we have to plant trees good. And of course, it's not only the Philippines taking action or but also our neighboring countries have strong programs too. So let's see them one by one. So let's begin with Indonesia. So they implemented a moratorium on new forest clearing since 2011, which was extended up to 2022. So this means that the government prohibited the issuance of new permits for logging and palm oil plantations on primary forest and peatlands. So they also use satellite monitoring to detect illegal logging, a smart technology-based solution. So sa Indonesia, di is nagamit sila mga satellite monitoring kay para makibawod sila na nag illegal logging bitaw sa mga kanang buntod nga may mga kahoy like ipang putol bitaw. So yeah, so next is the Philippines again. So with the National Greening Program to from 2011 to present aims to plant 1.5 billion trees across 1.5 billion hectares. So while engaging local communities and students in reforestation drives. So example na is kita like sa HSC is kanang mga tree planting bitaw, mangrove planting. Sa una naka-experience ko dito sa Katigbian. Then also sa Maribohok sa mangrove planting. Wala ako kaban sa bamboo planting atong sa tong lugar oy. Basta to. Then moving to Malaysia, they enforce the Sustainable Palm Oil Certification, like which ensures that palm oil is produced under environmental standards to reduce deforestation and protect wildlife habitats. So in Thailand, sa Thailand, no, the Community Forest Act of 2019 gives legal rights to local communities to manage and protect forest areas. So empowering citizens as guardians of their environment. So sa Thailand, napud sila ilaha, it is the CFA of 2019 or the Community Forest Act of 2019. So like, para sa itong nakita nga series is kanang bisan bitaw og like kung magbalik-balik dasig padagag motor is prohibited na nila kay makos sa gidag pollution. Then, yes, connection pa na siya sa kahoy kay og wala pa kahoy then adto kung sige ra pud padagan-dagad og mga vehicles which is dagan ang carbon dioxide kada adlaw. So, ang Thailand is dish la kayo kon bitaw kanang polluted kay aside sa dangap sa kahoy is mag strict pud lang law bitaw na. So, lastly, we have Vietnam. So, Vietnam implements the payment for Forest Environmental Services or the PFES where forest users pay local communities for maintaining watersheds and biodiversity. So, napod sa Vietnam, which is kanang payment for forest and environmental services like most lag na amot-amot siguro na maybe. So this model is inspiring. It rewards people for protecting the environment instead of exploiting it, and also it transforms conservation into both an ecological and economic opportunity. So yeah, kung dahil kahoy, then nindot, then sa economic opportunity is like, yeah, murag ka nang ma-reduce na bitaw ang gasto sa pag ka ng mga sa pollution bitaw. Yeah, so that's this Southeast Asia, so where forests, biodiversity, and human cooperation intertwine. So now let's move on to South Asia, so where the main battle is over something even more essential, which is water. So sa may kung kadungog mo water sa man, yes, like for me it is a basic like murag kana bitang one of the basic unit of human life bitaw, and also a universal solvent kay og wala tubig kay Yeah, murag dili po ta mabuhi gulay tubig no. So yeah. So moving on, South Asia, so which includes the countries like India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan. So faces the major issue of river pollution and unsafe water. So the causes of this issue are alarming. So there's untreated sewage and industrial discharge directly flowing to major river systems. So agricultural runoff rich in fertilizers and pesticides contaminates water, freshwater sources. So yeah, kana bitaw ang mga fertilizers, pesticides is mga contaminate na siya kay nabay mga chemical. So yeah. So, and urbanization without proper sanitation infrastructure makes the problem even worse. So, yes, kung wala kanang proper sanitation like para sa mga oil spill, sa gikan sa mga buildings or mga factories is makakause na siya problem sa especially sa mga dagat bitaw kay murag kanang makalaot siya sa mga sa ocean life kay kan man ang mga to species o mga hayop bitaw like katong mga abo na mo na mga species sa dagat din. So the effects and impacts are severe. So what first is there is an increase in waterborne diseases like cholera and dysentery. So kana cholera and dysentery is yeah, as what I said, waterborne diseases siya like kung manghimasa ka o makahimasa ka hugaw nga tubig is which is mag-cause siya og skin disease bitaw. Yes. Then, aquatic biodiversity declines, disturbing the ecosystem's natural balance. So, sa kung ganyan kanina, ato mga oil spill nga mudung sa dagat, then mga daot ang mga aquatic bodies bitaw, like mga fish and other species nga nasa ilawom dagat. Then, which is also maka-affect pod na sa mga kanang mga people nga nag-live sa dagat, near sa dagat, kanang mga fishermen, fisher folks, nga na bitaw kay mo man ilang source sa kanang income o silang food daily life. And yes, and economically, countries lose billions due to declining fisheries and tourism industries. Yes, some countries lost billions kay wala na mga tungod sa kahugaw sa mga tubig, wala na mga isda din. Di na pa sila doon turista kay sa man doon nila kung polluted ang water, di sa po magligo-ligo sila sa dagat nga hugaw or di ba ng mga aquatic bodies, no, maka-cause siya og downturn sa economy sa isa ka country kaya wala na may mga tourists kaya mga tourists kay mo man sinay nang maka sa itong mga economy kay mga exchanges of value of money then taas po sila og mga dahil sa pamaliton which is makatabang po siya no. So think of it this way, when a river dies it's not only the fish that suffer but the entire communities lose their source of life, food, and identity. Dili sa dagat, but also sa mga rivers food. Di ba? Para sa Manila. Mga rivers bitaw sa Manila. Isugaw man dyan na. Wala na di gamit siya. Kay, wala na may kon. Kinalang puro dagang basura. Basura na may kadaghan ng mga ilog, ng mga rivers sa Manila o sa other parts sa country. So, dili sa Philippines, no, but sa ubang countries is more severe dyan siya. So, think of it, but just like in Southeast Asia, there are both national and international efforts to fight this problem. So, here are the possible solutions and government actions. So, first, we have here the local and national. So, South Asian countries are investing in wastewater treatment and enforcing pollution laws to stop untreated waste from entering rivers. So, yes, ang South Asian is nag-invest na sila og mga wastewater treatment like sa research is about billions ang ilang investment adto para ma-solve ang problem. So regionally, countries cooperate under the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, or the SAARC, to manage shared water resources and promote environmental sustainability. Globally, organizations like the World Bank and the UNDP provide assistance for sustainable water management projects. So, ihatag sad ang mga World Bank ug UNDP ug kanang assistance bitaw like dili ang Asia but also ang sa global bitaw like nasa sustainable goals diba sa United Nations. So Yes, nitabang sila nga ma-solve kung sana ma-realize ang water management project sa isa sa mga countries nga nag-need ana. So water connects everyone. So cooperation across borders is the key. So dapat mag-cooperate sa tanan no nga dili ta maglabay mga basura sa mga rivers and other aquatic areas bitaw, dagat kay kasagaran ng ubang tao is wala jud pakialam bitaw nga halal laman labay sila mga waste sa mga rivers, then sa kay bawo nga at the end is mabalik ra nila kay mabaha nila or di ba i-tsunami ng mga sagbot nila adto sa ilang kabadyanan or sa community sa isa ka lugar. So yun, dapat jud magtinabangay jud tanong nga ma-prevent na jud na ang paglabay mga yana, then ato na siyang himuog i-recycle di ba kay maka-recycle man tawag mga waste through kuan bitaw like gamiton siya mga other innovations. Daghang mag innovations nga magamitan lang ang mga waste kung ang government is mo-help ra jud pud nato ang mga ideas nga tong i-innovate para mahimo na jud ang na bitang sa sustainable bitang atong country bitaw like mag-use na tawag mga recycled materials bitaw kay plastics are one of the causes of kanang pollution sa atong lugar, sa atong country, dili sa abang country, but also that are the kanang main issue of almost every countries, dili sa Asia but across the world. So yeah. So let's now take a closer look at a successful water restoration effort, which is the case of India's Ganges River. So according to India's Ministry of Jal Shakti 2022, the Namami Gange program has funded over 150 wastewater treatment plants, riverfront rejuvenation, and pollution abatement projects. Water quality monitoring shows gradual improvements in dissolved oxygen and biochemical oxygen demand or the BOD levels, both important indicators of our river's health. So, with consistent government funding, technological innovations, and community participation, India has made significant progress in restoring parts of the Ganges River, which is both a cultural and ecological treasure. Yes, so sa India, consistent lang government funding para ma-solve ang ilang problem sa water. Sa like bitang makitaan bitaw nato sa ubang video nga more culture bitaw nila nga like mag-use na sila mga bisag kanang hugaw nga waters bitaw sa ubang like basta na mikos nga na bitaw. Namito sa luto bisag hugaw jud like nga na. So yeah, nagkamot ang government nga ma-solve na nga issue, then ma-restore sa dati sa katong mga clean water sa river, sa Ganges River. So, this shows how faith, culture, and science can come together to heal nature when people unite for a cause. Yes, daan dyan ma-solution basta magtinabangay ra jud. Like, masalig sa kasayang kagalingon or ang community nga kung kanunayan jud nga i-practice na nga nang dili jud mo-pollute ang isa ka water body bitaw is naman jud na solution uban sa tabang sa science and sa people para mahil jud ang nature bitaw. So now let's check out what other South Asian countries are doing to combat water issues. So we have here the another from India, India's Namami Gange program. So 2014 to present, which is a multi-billion-dollar project to clean and rejuvenate the Ganges River. So it builds sewage treatment plants, promotes solid waste management, and regulates industries along the river banks. Another is the Bangladesh. So Bangladesh National Water Policy in 1999, updated to 2019, focuses on safe drinking water and integrated water resource management. So the government even closed several polluting tanneries in Dhaka to reduce river contamination and bold but necessary move. Another country is the Pakistan. So Pakistan have also a law, then which is the Pakistan's National Water Policy 2018, emphasizes water conservation, dam building, and efficient irrigation management to address shortages. So, lastly, we have the Nepal's Water Supply and Sanitation Master Plan 2016 to 2030. Ang goal nila is to aim for universal clean water access, expanding both urban and rural water infrastructure. Yes. So each of these examples proves that strong policy combined with active community participation leads to real change. So, kung active ra jud mo participate ang tanang tawo nga masolve ang problem sa water, so magic kabaguhan kay mahinlo, then ma-restore ang gihinlo ma-restore na jud ang ecosystem sa I mean ang life sa water bitaw dili nahugaw, then may-use na siya sa everyday life bitaw, then may mo pa siyang source of water sa every home, like sa irrigation, sa everyday nga uses bitaw yan na. So that concludes our discussion for South Asia. So where water is both a source of life and a symbol of the struggle for environmental justice. So yeah, so we can reflect jud nga ang water is source of life bisa kita go like mo sa feeling if dili jud ta makainom og hinlo nga water. Ikaw kuno imagine if inom ka gugaw nga water, ibang magsakit suga kay hugaw man maka-affect man sa simong lawas. Then mag-cause siya og like dahon na po masakit, which is ang economy na po magkuan kay ang budget na po sa mga tao nga nangasakit ato na po madung sa medications sa hospital kay hugaw ang water. Then mag-cause na po siya og economic downturn. And also, di na siya sa about for people but also sa environmental kay kung environmental kay like kung hinlo ang water na po yung mga isda nga mo kuha na po mga other water species like isda, mga shells nga mubalik sa life like may mo sa source of economy and everyday needs sa mga nagpuyo anak nga lugar. So, maola to guys sa akong part and that's all. Thank you.
Good day everyone. We now transition to a critical analysis of the environmental issues in Central Asia and West Asia. So please follow along with the slides as we uncover both the challenges and the remarkable innovations taking place in order to combat the environmental issues. So let's start with Central Asia. The environmental challenge in Central Asia is defined on our slide as shrinking water bodies and land degradation, a crisis we can summarize as catastrophic water mismanagement and desertification. So this issue profoundly affects the countries of Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. Now let's proceed to the causes of these environmental issues. First, we have here the unsustainable irrigation and water diversion for agriculture. The most dramatic origin lies in the Soviet-era push to grow water-intensive crops like cotton in arid regions. This required massive diversion of the Amu Darya and Syr Darya rivers, effectively starving the Aral Sea and surrounding ecosystems. And second, we have here the inefficient water infrastructure. So much of the legacy canal system is unlined earthworks, meaning that an estimated 40% of the water intended for crops is lost simply to seepage and evaporation before it ever reaches the fields. So this inherent wastefulness dramatically exacerbates scarcity. So third, we have here regional conflicts over shared river resources. So upstream nations like Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan prioritize using river flow for hydropower generations during winter, while downstream countries like Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan desperately need that water for irrigation during the summer. So this creates a constant geopolitical tension over water timing and volume. Let's now proceed to the effects and impacts of the environmental issues in Central Asia. So first, the most visible impact is the loss of fisheries and local livelihoods, particularly around the former Aral Sea, which has collapsed from the world's fourth largest lake. So the entire regional economies were destroyed and tens of thousands of jobs were erased. And also, second, we have here increased respiratory illnesses from salt and dust storms. So, as the seabed dried, it exposed vast areas of salt and fine dust, often contaminated with residual pesticides and fertilizers. So these toxic dust clouds are carried hundreds of kilometers by the wind, leading to a spike in throat cancers, tuberculosis, and chronic bronchitis. And ultimately, the result in dramatic land degradation and rising desertification is the turning of the former seabed into a new desolate desert known as the Aral Qum. Now, let's move on to the possible solutions and government actions. So, the response to these issues require a coordinated effort across three levels. First is the local and national efforts. So, the local and national efforts focus on the rehabilitation of irrigation systems and promotion of water-efficient crops, modernizing infrastructure to prevent that crucial 40% loss. And as for the regional cooperation is vital, particularly through the International Fund for Saving the Aral Sea, or the IFAS, which is the primary intergovernmental body coordinating shared water resource management among the 5 Central Asian nations. And also, for the global support is provided via partnership with the UNDP and the World Bank for ecological restoration and funding large-scale projects. We also have here the restoration efforts and the results. So these efforts that I will mention are now yielding measurable results, showing that large-scale environmental repair is possible. First is Uzbekistan. So Uzbekistan initiated large-scale afforestation projects, planting 1.7 million hectares of drought-resistant saksau trees. So the saksau is a hardy desert shrub planted specifically because its deep root system stabilizes the soil and prevents toxic dust from becoming airborne. So this effort successfully reduced toxic dust emissions. And furthermore, the Kok Aral Dam project helped partially restore water levels in the northern part of the sea, increasing fish populations and revitalizing fisheries. Aside from that, we also have here additional government actions in Central Asia to combat the environmental issues present in that region. So we have here the Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. They are sustaining the Aral Sea restoration projects, and that is with the cooperation of the World Bank. So these projects focus on sustainable irrigation reforms. And aside from that, we also have here Turkmenistan, which enacted the Water Conservation Law in 2016, providing the legal framework for modernizing irrigation canals. And lastly, we have here the Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan is focused on climate adaptation through its national strategy for climate change adaptation, specifically to protect its crucial mountain ecosystems and manage glacial water resources. Our focus shifts now to West Asia, where the main issue is clearly defined in our slide as severe water shortage due to arid climate and overuse, which we can refer to as water scarcity and desertification. So these issues affect key nations like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, and Yemen. For the causes, the primary cause is the over-extraction of groundwater and limited freshwater resources. So most of the region relies on ancient, non-renewable aquifers, often called fossil water. So this is water deposited underground thousands of years ago that is now being used much faster than it can be naturally replenished. And also, we are seeing rapid population growth and urbanization in desert regions. Cities like Riyadh and Dubai have experienced immense growth, creating enormous and unsustainable demand for water and energy in naturally arid areas. And finally, the region's economic foundation is its reliance on fossil fuels for energy production. So, this contributes significantly to global warming, which intensifies the heat and drought, creating a vicious feedback loop. Now, let's tackle the effects and impacts of the issues. The effects include declining agricultural productivity and increased desertification. Intensive irrigation in dry climates causes salinization, where evaporated water leaves salt behind, rendering the soil unusable over time. And also, this leads to loss of native vegetation and biodiversity as habitats become increasingly inhospitable due to heat and water scarcity. And also, critical dependency exists on rising temperatures and dependency on energy-intensive cooling systems. So, the high heat necessitates massive air conditioning use, which strains power grids and requires more fossil fuel consumption. Now, let's proceed to the possible solutions and government actions. So, West Asia is countering these problems with global leading innovation. The main solutions involved are the following. So, first, we have here the local and national. So, for local and national, we have here the expansion of renewable energy and water conservation projects. This often involves technologies like desalination, which is the process of removing salt and minerals from seawater or brackish water to make it safe for drinking and irrigation. And also, we have here the regional, which involves the cooperation under the Gulf Cooperation Council or the GCC for sustainable resource management. And as for the global, it is the alignment with the Paris Climate Agreement and international climate adaptation frameworks. We can also see here the sustainability initiatives and progress led by the country Saudi Arabia. So a key example of this multi-level commitment is found in Saudi Arabia. And according to the Saudi Green Initiative in 2023, the country aims to plant an unprecedented 10 billion trees, rehabilitate 40 million hectares of land, and significantly increase renewable energy capacity. And by expanding solar and wind energy production and developing one of the world's largest desalination systems, for example, is the planned Shuaibah project, Saudi Arabia has taken substantial steps toward reducing carbon emissions and combating desertification. And also, we have here the additional government actions. So, this ambition is supported by targeted government programs across the region, where every nation has a unique strategy. Again, we have Saudi Arabia with their Vision 2030 environmental plan, which involve large investments in desalination and renewables. And strategically, this diversifies the economy away from oil while proactively securing essential water and cooling resources for future demand. And also, we can see here Israel's water desalination revolution, which has resulted in over 80% of its drinking water coming from desalination. And also, this has achieved water security regardless of drought complemented by world-leading drip irrigation systems that precisely deliver water to roots, minimizing agricultural waste. And aside from that, we also have here Jordan's Red Sea Dead Sea Water Conveyance Project, which is a crucial cooperative effort with Israel and the Palestinian Authority to transfer desalinated water. And this project is a rare and essential example of regional collaboration on a critical shared resource to ensure long-term stability. And we also see here Iran's National Drought Mitigation Plan, which introduced strict groundwater management. And this involves placing limits and monitoring the drilling of new private wells to actively slow the depletion of critically stressed national aquifers. And we also have here Yemen's UN and government water rehabilitation projects, which is focused on restoring local wells to support communities due to conflict and infrastructure collapse. And these actions function as humanitarian lifelines, prioritizing immediate access to potable water in crisis hit areas. In conclusion, Asia faces a monumental and environmental crisis with issues like severe air and water pollution, rapid deforestation, and critical water scarcity, driven largely by accelerated urbanization, industrial growth, and reliance on fossil fuels. And ultimately, the final message is that while governments across Asia are taking visible steps towards sustainability, long-term success depends on continuous cooperation and citizen participation. Laws and projects can only go so far. It is awareness, accountability, and education that will truly sustain Asia's environment for the generations to come. This is summarized perfectly by our concluding thought. Sustainability is not just a policy. It is a shared responsibility. Thank you.